Close your eyes for a second. Imagine Mars 100 years from now. What do you see? You probably see the same image that has been sold to us in science fiction movies, in billionaire presentations, and in stunning concept art. You see gigantic glass domes glowing under the sun. You see green forests growing where there was once only red dust. Maybe you even see blue oceans, covering the great craters of the northern hemisphere. We were sold the idea that Mars is a fixable Earth, a home that just needs a good renovation. They say that if we warm the planet, if we melt the polar ice, if we launch nuclear bombs or giant mirrors to create a greenhouse effect, the atmosphere will thicken, rain will fall, and eventually we will be able to walk on the surface without spacesuits. It's a beautiful vision. It's inspiring. It gives us hope that humanity has a plan B. But what if I told you that all of this is a lie? I'm not saying the technology is impossible. I'm not saying we don't have rockets to get there. The problem is much deeper. The problem is the planet itself. There is an invisible killer on Mars, something most space enthusiasts ignore, a fatal flaw in the planet's structure that makes any attempt to create an atmosphere not just difficult, but useless. We can dump all the air we want onto Mars. We can bombard it with comets. We can melt every gram of dry ice. But the planet cannot hold that air. Today, we're going to stare into the abyss of reality. We're going to understand why Mars is doomed to be a cold, dead desert forever, and why the idea of turning that red world into a blue paradise is not just an engineering challenge. It's a violation of the laws of physics. Forget everything you heard about planting potatoes or building garden cities. The truth about the red planet is far more brutal. To understand why we can't fix Mars, we first need to understand what makes Earth so special. And the answer is not in the sky, not in the water, not in the forests. The answer is thousands of kilometers beneath your feet. Earth is alive. And I don't mean alive because of animals and plants. I mean geologically alive. The center of our planet is a violent, rotating furnace. We have a solid iron inner core and an outer core of liquid metal that is constantly spinning. This movement of liquid metal generates gigantic electric currents. And as any basic physics student knows, electricity generates magnetism. Earth is, essentially, a gigantic magnet. This process creates an invisible shield around our planet that extends for thousands of kilometers into space. We call this the magnetosphere. You can't see it, you can't feel it, and you probably rarely think about it. But if that shield disappeared for just a few minutes, life as we know it would begin to end. Now look at Mars. Mars is much smaller than Earth. It's about half the size. Because of that, it lost its internal heat much faster after its formation. Billions of years ago, Mars's heart stopped beating. The core cooled. The liquid metal stopped spinning. The dynamo shut down. And when the heart stopped, the shield fell. Today, Mars is a geologically dead planet. There is no global magnetic field to protect it. If Earth is a house with a solid roof and thick walls, Mars is a house without a roof, without windows, exposed to endless storms. And this is where the fallacy of terraforming begins to collapse. People focus on creating atmosphere. They say, we need more carbon dioxide. We need a greenhouse effect. They are trying to fill a bathtub, but they forgot to check whether the bathtub has a bottom. And spoiler, Mars's bathtub is an open drain to the vacuum of space. Let's talk about the sun. From here on Earth, protected by our magnetic shield and our blanket of air, the sun seems like a benevolent source of light and warmth. It makes plants grow. It warms our skin at the beach. But in space, without protection, the sun is not your friend. The sun is a thermonuclear cannon that never stops firing. In addition to light, the The sun constantly spews a torrent of charged particles, protons and electrons, traveling at insane speeds, close to millions of kilometers per hour. This is the solar wind. Imagine the solar wind as a cosmic sandblaster, a continuous, violent, relentless sandblaster. When this solar wind hits Earth, it slams into our magnetic shield. The shield deflects these particles, making them flow around the planet, harmlessly. The few that manage to get in are channeled toward the poles, creating the beautiful auroras. Our shield protects our atmosphere from being stripped away. But on Mars, there is no shield. The solar wind hits Mars's atmosphere directly, at full force. Imagine turning on an industrial leaf blower in front of a pile of talcum powder. What happens? Nothing is left. This process has a scientific name: atmospheric erosion. Every second of every day, the sun is peeling away the top of Mars's atmosphere, ripping tons of gas away and throwing them into deep space. Mars is not just losing air. The air is being violently torn from it. NASA knows this. They're not guessing. In 2014, they sent a probe called MAVEN specifically to study this. And MAVEN's data told a story of planetary horror. Billions of years ago, Mars was like Earth. It had a magnetic field. It had a thick atmosphere. It had rivers, lakes, and maybe a shallow ocean in the north. It was a blue world. But when the core cooled and the magnetic field died, the sun began its assault. Over eons, the solar wind sanded Mars's atmosphere down until only the thin, pathetic layer that exists today remained. The pressure there now is less than 1% of Earth's pressure. If you poured a glass of water on the surface of Mars today, the water would not freeze immediately. It would boil and violently evaporate due to the lack of pressure, before the vapor froze or escaped. So, here's the terraforming problem. If we spend trillions of dollars, centuries of effort, and incalculable resources to create a dense atmosphere on Mars today, the sun will simply start eating it again. It would be like mopping ice. We would be pumping air into a planet just to watch it leak into space. We are trying to inflate a punctured tire while the car is moving. Say the optimists, but solar erosion takes millions of years. If we create the atmosphere fast enough, it will last long enough for humanity to enjoy it. Okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's ignore the solar wind for a minute and focus on logistics. Let's talk about Elon Musk's favorite idea: nuke Mars. Bombarding the poles with nuclear weapons to release the frozen CO2 and create an instant greenhouse effect. It sounds like a movie villain plan, but the physics behind the idea is to try to release the gas that is already there. The problem? There isn't enough gas. In 2018, a definitive study published in Nature Astronomy took inventory of all the carbon dioxide available on Mars. They counted everything: the ice in the polar caps, the gas trapped in rocks, the gas in the subsurface. They added up every molecule we could realistically access with current or near future technology. The result was a bucket of cold water. Even if we sublimated, evaporated all accessible CO2 on Mars, if we completely melted the poles and squeezed the soil, atmospheric pressure would rise from the current 0.6% of Earth's to about 7%. 7%. Do you know what happens to the human body at 7% of Earth's atmospheric pressure? Your blood boils. Your lungs collapse. You die in seconds. To walk on Mars without a pressurized suit, we would need at least something close to 40% or 50% of Earth's atmosphere, and that would still require oxygen masks. Mars simply doesn't have the ingredients. The planet is poor. It lacks nitrogen. It lacks CO2. It lacks enough water. To truly terraform Mars, it wouldn't be enough to use what's already there. We would have to import atmosphere. We would have to capture thousands, maybe millions of comets and ice and ammonia-rich asteroids from the outer reaches of the solar system, bring them inward, and smash them into Mars with surgical precision. We are talking about engineering on a galactic scale. We are talking about moving mountains through the vacuum. And even if we succeeded, those collisions would be cataclysmic events. Each impact would be like the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Mars would be uninhabitable for centuries due to dust and impact heat. We would have to destroy the planet to save it. But let's keep playing the what-if game. Let's say we solved the solar wind problem and the lack of gas problem. We got the atmosphere. What happens next? You step outside your base, look up at the sky, which might now be kind of purple, not blue, and take a deep breath with your oxygen mask. Are you safe? No, because we are back to the magnetic field problem. Earth's magnetosphere doesn't just protect the air, it protects your DNA. Space is permeated by galactic cosmic rays. These are extremely high-energy particles coming from distant supernova explosions and black holes. They pass through metal, through rock, and through human flesh like butter. On Earth, our magnetic field and our dense atmosphere filter out the vast majority of these invisible bullets. On Mars, without a magnetic field, even with a moderate artificial atmosphere, radiation on the surface would be brutally high. Living on the surface of a terraformed Mars would be like living inside an X-ray machine that never turns off. Cancer rates would skyrocket. Infertility would be common. Cognitive damage would be expected. To survive long-term, even on a green Mars, humans would likely still have to live underground, or under glass domes with meters of water thickness for shielding. So what's the point? If you need to live in a hole in the ground, or under a shielded dome, to keep your chromosomes from being shredded, you didn't terraform the planet. You just built a bigger bunker. The idea of walking through Martian forests under sunlight, feeling the breeze on your face, is a biological fantasy. Our bodies evolved for 4 billion years, protected by a magnetic shield. Without it, we are too soft, too fragile for the real universe. Of course, scientists know all of this, and there are theoretical proposals to get around the death of Mars's core. The most popular idea comes from NASA itself, building an artificial shield. The theory is to place a gigantic satellite at a gravitational balance point between the Sun and Mars, the Lagrange point L1. This satellite would generate an artificial magnetic field powerful enough to cover all of Mars in its magnetic shadow, protecting it from the solar wind. In theory, brilliant. In practice, impossible. First, the amount of energy required to generate a magnetic field that large is mind-blowing. We're not talking about ordinary batteries or solar panels. We're talking about massive nuclear reactors in space, or fusion technologies we don't even fully control on Earth yet. Second, the engineering. Building a structure of that magnitude in deep space is something that is centuries beyond our current capabilities. We can barely keep the International Space Station running, and it's right there in low Earth orbit. And third, and most terrifying, fragility. Imagine we build this shield. Mars's atmosphere starts to thicken. We plant trees, we build cities, millions of people move there. Life depends on that satellite. And then, it breaks. A mechanical failure, a terrorist attack, a meteor impact on the satellite, or simply lack of maintenance. If the artificial shield fails, the protection disappears instantly. The solar wind would once again hit the atmosphere at full force. Cosmic radiation would flood the surface. It would be an immediate global catastrophe. An entire society living under the constant sword of Damocles, knowing that its survival depends on a single machine floating in dark space. Would you put your family on that planet? Would you sleep peacefully knowing that the roof of your world could shut off at any moment? When we look at all these factors, the dead core, the relentless solar wind, the lack of raw materials, the lethal radiation, the conclusion is inevitable and a bit sad. Terraforming Mars is not a project for the next 100 years, maybe not even for the next 1,000 years. It is very likely that it will never happen. Mars is not a blank canvas waiting for our art. Mars is a cemetery. It is the corpse of a planet that died long before dinosaurs appeared on Earth. Trying to revive it is like trying to make a stone heart beat again. Will we go to Mars? Yes, absolutely. We will visit. We will plant flags. Brave scientists will live in cramped bases, recycling their own urine and eating lab-grown algae, dedicating their lives to research. It will be a glorious feat of exploration, but it will not be a colonization. It will not be a new home. There will be no Martian suburbs with children playing on red grass. And maybe that is an important lesson. When we realize that Mars is uninhabitable, we are forced to look back to the pale blue dot where we are now. We treat Earth as if it were disposable. We act as if, when we destroy this place, we could simply pack our bags and move next door. Let's go to Mars, we say, as if we were saying, let's change apartments. But the universe is telling us, with its cold silence and deadly radiation, that there is no other apartment. Earth is a statistical anomaly, a perfect magnetic shield, an atmosphere at just the right density, a perfect distance from the sun. It is an oasis in an infinite desert of hostility. The impossible difficulty of terraforming Mars should serve as a final warning. Plan B is an illusion. There is no lifeboat. We are astronauts on a ship called Earth, and if we damage this ship's life support system, there is nowhere to go. Look at Mars. Look closely at that toxic, frozen, airless desert, and then look out the window and see a tree swaying in the wind. Never has the neighbor's grass seemed so lifeless, and never has ours seemed so precious. Thank you for watching.